Hi everybody, this is golf instructor Steve Bishop, and today I'm going to be talking to you about something called the D-plane. Now, the D-plane has actually been around for a while, but up until recently, it hasn't really been widely accepted. And that's because there was this war going on between the old ball flight laws and something called the new ball flight laws. But they've actually been around for a while, but until recently, they really started to come into their own. Now, I want to give you this video to help demonstrate why the D-plane, well, first of all, what is the D-plane, and why is it so important? Why does it make the ball spin, and why does it even mean anything to your golf game? Well, it means a lot to your golf game, because once you understand the D-plane, you start to make adjustments that are really going to make your game a lot better. All right? Now, first of all, let me just talk to you real quickly about what the old ball flight laws and the new ball flight laws were. The old ball flight laws dictated that the ball initially took off in the path that the club head was traveling at impact. And then the club face would cause the ball to spin basically back to wherever the club face was aimed. That was the old ball flight laws. The new ball flight laws, and we know through the new ball flight laws have been confirmed, okay? We have high-speed video. It's real, okay? We have high-speed video. We have Doppler radar that confirms this. We absolutely know that the ball takes off about 80 to 85% initially in the direction that the club face is aimed, and then the ball will curve away from the path that the club head was traveling. So that's almost the exact opposite of what the old ball flight laws used to say. And if you think about it, you've probably seen an example of how this has affected someone. Let's take an example of a slicer and using the old ball flight laws, okay? Now, if someone was slicing the ball started out to the right and continued to fly out even further to the right, what generally would happen is somebody would say, well, wait a minute, okay, since the ball is starting out to the right and I need to fix my path, you know what, I need to aim a little bit more to the left. So what would happen is you'd have people that actually aim a little bit more to the left. And what you get then, since, of course, like I was saying, with the new ball flight laws, if you make that kind of adjustment, what actually happens is the ball, again, flies and turns away from the path. So if you aim further left, the ball will spin more to the right. So that guy that lines up further to the left, all he's doing is he's ensuring that the ball will spin and slice even further and still go out into the woods that he was trying to avoid. So, let's talk about why all of this happens. Well, first of all, the D-plane, and just to give you guys a quick little bit, I absolutely know I'm kind of not ripping off, but I'm taking something that I already saw on YouTube, and I thought it was fantastic. It illustrates the D-plane absolutely wonderfully. And I'm basically taking the same thing, but I'm adding one little twist here. Notice that I've got this spongy cord basically between these two shafts. Now, the bottom shaft, okay, this bottom shaft represents the path that the club head is traveling at impact. The top shaft is representing the club face angle, both in loft, that's why it's got some angle up, and also in direction. So when I turn and face you, you're going to see that that path is, or the club face is aimed straight at you, okay? Now, the D-plane, as you notice, if the path and the club face are both aimed straight at the target, you have a vertical D-plane. That's that spongy cord, okay? That spongy cord is the D-plane. Now, if I move the club face so that it aims a little bit out here to the right, okay, notice that the D-plane is now rotated and tilted, all right? Now, if I aim my club face a little bit out to the left, but still keep the path, still aimed at the target, you'll notice that, of course, I have that 45-degree angle of the D-plane going the opposite direction. So why is that important? Well, that angle, that D-plane angle, is going to dictate something very important on the golf ball, and that is, if you've ever heard the term side spin on a golf ball, it's wrong. There's no such thing as side spin. The ball is not spinning on its side, okay? In fact, what happens is a golf ball has only one, what we call axis, that it spins around. Just like, if I was tilted this way, just like the Earth spins around this axis, okay? You got the North Pole and the South Pole, basically. Well, the golf ball spins like this. And if you have a perfectly straight shot, the golf ball will fly like this and then land like that, because this axis, if you can imagine it sort of like the wings of an airplane, right? If they're perfectly level and you pull back on the yoke and then you push down on the yoke, the airplane's going to go up and down, okay? But if you tilt the wings or tilt the axis of the golf ball, all that a golf ball can do is spin around this axis and cause lift, okay? So just like that airplane just like that airplane pilot, if he pulls back on the yoke, just like the golf ball pulling back on the yoke, you're going to see that for a hook, if I tilt that axis, that's going to make the ball fly to the left. Now, if I tilt the axis this way, that's going to make the ball go to the right. Okay? So all that a golf ball can really do is basically have lift. And it's going to lift in the direction of basically the wings, okay, or the axis. All right? Here's how that all fits together. And this is the neat little part. This is where it all comes together. Okay? Here I have my D-plane, right? There's my straight D-plane. It's going to create a straight shot. Why? Because the axis of the golf ball that it spins upon is going to be 90 degrees to the D-plane, right? That's what we found out, that the ball will spin 90 degrees relative to the D-plane. So if I rotate my D-plane, okay, at that 45-degree angle, notice what that does to the axis of the ball spin. You'll see that it's tilted at a 45-degree angle. And since it's tilted at that 45-degree angle, and when it has lift, it's going to fly off like this for a hook. Same thing if I aim the club face out to the right. Again, my path is straight at you guys. My club face is aimed out to the right. There I have the tilt of the golf ball, okay, because of the D-plane having that tilt. Now I'm going to have the tilt of the golf ball, and it's going to fly up and away, and that's going to be a slice. Okay? Makes sense, right? I hope that really helps a lot of you understand the D-plane. I'm going to add one little caveat for you guys that already understand and fully comprehend the D-plane. And something I recently said, that with the higher lofted clubs, what actually ends up happening is that the ball will actually end up much closer to wherever the face was, and the path will have much less to do with the curvature of the golf ball. And let me just kind of explain that. Let's take my let's take my driver here, okay? And I'm making the club face open about 10 degrees out from the path, and you can see that puts a pretty hefty, like 45-degree angle to the D-plane. Now, as soon as I add loft, now I'm going to keep the same distance. Basically, as you're looking, you can see that basically this is as far out as I'm taking my club face, right? That's about 10 degrees out away from the path, okay? Now, if I keep that club face open 10 degrees from my target, but I just increase loft, notice what happens to the D-plane. The D-plane starts to get a little bit more upright, right? I'm not really doing anything as far as, opening up the club face more or closing the club face more. But all I'm doing is I'm adding loft, and notice that the D-plane starts to get a little bit more up and down. Well, that means that this axis tilt of the golf ball is also going to go from this to a little bit more upright, like this. And that's why when you add loft to a golf club, the path doesn't really make as much of a difference, because you would have to really, to still get that 45-degree angle that I had. Here's my driver with the 45-degree angle. Not only do I have to, when I add loft, if I'm going to get it back at that 45 influential degree angle, I'm really going to have to make that club face open up. I'm going to have to go not just 10 degrees open, but I'm going to have that thing almost a good 45 degrees open in order to get the 45 degrees of D-plane tilt. Does that make sense? So now, if I'm going to make the ball spin left or right with a wedge, I really, really have to make my path and my club face be much more divergent from one another. Okay? I hope that makes sense to a lot of you. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or visit my website. My website, of course, is golfswing.throughhere.net. That's golfswing.throuhere.net.